Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is tenebrous. Shut off from the light, dark or murky, hard to understand, obscure, and causing gloom. Tenebrous. I've never heard that term either, which is a running theme in this podcast. So, my initial thoughts. The light is... I got really cinematic for some reason. The light is fading in the world as the sun has started to withdraw itself. It's getting darker and colder each day. You need to adjust to the darkness and find ways to keep going, and just as importantly, keep happy. What are the advantages of darkness, is what I wrote. I was trying to, and I didn't answer that. I just left it as a question. What are the advantages of darkness? One of the first that came to mind was just stealth, or, hiding any sort of appearance or anything along those lines. But I didn't answer that, so it's something interesting to think about. It's just the advantages of not having light. So to get into what I wrote for mechanics, I wrote the unknown, which is, a card that hasn't been revealed, somebody's hand, just any sort of hidden personal information. Future randomness is all unknown. I also wrote secret actions or decisions. Remind me of darkness and shut off from the light. A range of visibility in some sort of mechanic that shows your reach or, what you can see and what you can't. Getting only a piece at a time. So just a slow build of obtaining items of whatever sort. I also wrote arranging items in an order from the sun out until they eventually disappear. And I got into that a little bit, but what I meant was, let's say the sun is in the center of all players, and you're going to build outward from the sun towards you, wherever you're sitting at the table. And, it could be cards, it could be tokens, and tokens was kind of where I went with, but you're going to, on your turn or whatever, you're going to add a token to this line that's coming out from the sun. And they can only go behind each other. Somehow maybe you can insert them in between and shift, but what happens is they each have a front and a back, which is a little like a memory mechanic, but it's more like a pattern recognition, even just comparing to a rule book or whatever. But I wrote that certain tokens have certain shapes, and when the sun goes, the tokens are flipped to the dark side. So they just have a plain background. But they still can be used. So what you're doing is you're kind of working in the dark. So you have these tokens that allow you to do things. They're all placed from the sun out, and eventually the ones that are furthest away get flipped over to the backside. And then you know that this one's a square, and a square could be one of three things, for example, and you can eventually use it. Or even when you're so far from the sun, they just come out flipped over. So you're pulling them from like a center pool and putting them out there. And what happens is you have to use certain items or certain knowledge that you have to be able to look at them to see what they are before you can use them, or you can try to use them blindly and they might misfire and whatever it is. That was just kind of where I went with mechanics. For themes, I have a haunted house or any sort of horror story, anything blindfolded, a situation where you're maybe captured or something along those lines. For themes, I wrote shadow puppets, which is just a cool, everything about that's cool. Monsters living in shadows, shadows killing plants or vegetation in some sort of farming game where there's a city built next to a farm and the shadows are just, the shadows of the skyscrapers are impacting the farmland. And then a gloomy town that's in the shadow of a mountain, which was interesting to me as well. So for my final thoughts, I did write about that gloomy town that's in the shadow of the mountain. I love that theme. I love the setting of it, and maybe keeping it running or keeping it separate from the rest of the world to avoid everything that comes with the light. And I wrote, and this is where I get cinematic again. Maybe it's one of those sheltered things where everyone in this town that's in the shadow thinks that light represents everything that's wrong with the world and society. And the younger folk in this town decide that they want to escape and see the light and bottle it up and bring it back to prove the elders wrong. And I had this cool concept of just bottling up light, and that doesn't even work. But maybe they have some sort of tool that can do it, and this is a fantasy game or whatever. But I wrote mechanically that bottling up and saving light would be like either like a sun-shaped pie chart tableau or something along those lines that have wedges that you can fill in with what you're collecting and gathering to show the elders, and you could form sets within there, and the way things that are positioned in your little pie chart, or the just the collection of what you have. And then I said there could be timers before the light fades, and then bad things happen when it does. So maybe these also start to flip over. Light and dark and flipping something to its backside seem to go really hand in hand with me. That's the first thing I think of, is just dark is flip it over. Now it's we can't say it. So I kind of go there. That's it. This is a pretty short episode, but I ran through like 100 quick ideas, and out of all those, the cinematic ones I like the best. But I also like a center sun and these tokens coming out and being different shapes, and me knowing what the potential of a circle is, the potential of a square is, the potential of a triangle. But I need to use my little bit of light to see what they are, or take that chance and just use them blindly. All right, well, that's it for Tenebrous. Let me know what you have. I hope you can see the light as well. Oh, I just said that. All right, catch you tomorrow. Thanks.